Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here. In this video, we're talking about Virtua Fighter 5's netcode. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, on this channel we have talked quite a bit about netcode, and we've also talked quite a bit about Virtua Fighter 5. The biggest question about Virtua Fighter 5 was whether or not it was going to have good netcode, specifically rollback. The success of this game online depends on whether or not people can play in an enjoyable format. And Sega has been very quiet on the matter. They've been a little cryptic too. They haven't come out and said exactly what they have. After some testing here, we think we might have an answer. Now this is all thanks to Arturo Sanchez, who goes by NYC Furby on Twitter. The other day they posted this tweet that kind of sums everything up. So after some investigation, they noticed that they were not directly connected to their opponent. They also noticed that it was using a relay server kind of like Street Fighter V. On top of that, they were connected to Google somehow. So let's explain exactly what this means. First and foremost, the game is not using rollback netcode, and that's a huge bummer. Secondly, it does look like the game is using a delay-based netcode, and a lot of people won't like to hear that considering it's kind of the bane of the FGC. But why are a lot of people reporting good connections, myself included? Let's get into that. So here's a diagram at a really high level of what we think is going on. We have player 1 and player 2. The orange arrows represent data. It flows to and from the Google server that the player is connected to. You can see that they're not directly connected to each other at all. They're both connected to the same server. In this example, it would mean that the server is closest to both of them. This is the same server that both would be using in the event that they lived close by. If they don't live close by, then the situation changes a little bit, but the connection still remains good. In this example here, let's say one player is on the west coast of the States, the other is on the east coast. They'd be connected to two different Google servers. So player 1 is connected to one server, player 2 is connected to another, and these two servers talk to each other, and they talk to each other at an extremely fast rate. Probably a lot faster than a standard connection, probably a lot faster than player 1 could talk to player 2 directly. Moving on to example 3, we've increased the distance between the players, but not the distance between the player and their respective Google server. So let's say we have someone from the States and maybe even someone from Japan. They're close by to some sort of Google server. Those two Google servers are very far apart, but again, Google transmits information between its servers extremely fast. And this could represent a fairly decent connection. In this type of setup, the player's main concern is just talking to whatever server is closest to them, and then the server handles the bulk of the work. But this is where things can take a turn for the bad. Let's pretend for a second one of these players does not live close to the server, and we'll take the top player here. So there's quite a bit of a distance between them and the Google server. This is almost certainly going to introduce a bad connection. Even though player 2's connection here is great, player 1 does not have a good connection to the server, and this will result in a lot of lag. It doesn't really matter how fast these Google servers are talking to each other. It's this connection here between the person and the Google server. And this also applies to people who live close to each other. Let's say player 1 and player 2 live extremely close to each other, down the street close. You can throw a baseball to them close. You can shout and the other one can hear you close. But let's say they live far away from a Google server. In order to play against each other online, they have to connect to that server, even though it's far away. They can't directly connect to each other. So there's going to be a horrible delay even though they're right down the street. Surprisingly, this will happen more than you think, and if you don't believe me, I brought up Google's cloud server so we can take a look to see exactly where these servers are. If this is what Virtua Fighter 5 is using, here is the big problem. If you live in Alaska, Northern Canada, Eastern Canada, Central US, Southern North America, including Mexico, South America, Russia, Africa, you're probably not going to have a good time. The dots on this map represent exactly where these servers are, and I'll leave a link in the description below if you do want to check them out. If you don't live close to one of these servers, chances are you'll probably never have a great time playing Virtua Fighter Online. Another really big problem that's introduced here, it wouldn't arrive till a little bit later on down the road, but if Sega is actually using Google servers, these servers, they're not free. Sega has to pay for them. As soon as Sega decides they no longer want to pay for these servers, well, online is dead. Online depends on those Google servers. There's no way to directly connect to your opponent. So this means that online kind of has a shelf life. Now, with all of that being said, this is what we currently think is going on behind the scenes with Sega and Virtua Fighter 5. We don't have solid, concrete information just yet because Sega's not being very forthcoming. We don't really know. Sega's being quiet here. I kind of wish they would tell us, but at the same time, if Sega's not using rollback, they probably don't want to say they're not using rollback. But anyways, that is all I've got for today. If you're enjoying Virtua Fighter Online, continue to enjoy the game. Don't worry about it. If you're having issues with the netcode, well, maybe this video helped explain things just a little bit. I think the netcode is not the best. I also think it could be a heck of a lot worse. Their implementation here seems to be miles ahead of games like Street Fighter V, and that's a good thing. At the same time, it's still not as good as rollback. So we'll see what happens in the future. Let me know your thoughts about Virtua Fighter 5's netcode in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts about Virtua Fighter 5 in general in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button, check out my other videos. Thank you everyone, take care.